In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
Right now, time to put an eye on the SEC. The undisputed best conference.
Champions in the college football world.
The fans. The talent.
I know one thing, the SEC just got a little tougher.
The University of Tennessee.
Details, small details.
Let's put an eye on the SEC. We go down to Auburn, Alabama. It's the Auburn Tigers at the Tennessee Volunteers noon on Saturday at Neyland Stadium. Someone that covers the Auburn Tigers, a sports editor of the Opelika-Auburn News, but more importantly, friend of this show. That would be Mike Szvetitz. Mike, Vince, and Ben here in Knoxville. How the heck are you, sir?
Vince, what's going on, buddy? Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Nice to meet you on the airwaves.
Yeah, Ben, I've heard a lot about you, so don't mess it up.
Don't listen to anything you've heard.
Yeah, it's probably.
Well, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. So if you're hanging out with Vince, then I know it's all downhill from here.
Yeah. You probably got your info from Woodbury or Gribble, I'm sure. So, Mike, let's talk about Auburn performing the way they have this year. It seems to me clear that a lot of people still are having a hard time adjusting their preseason expectations to what the reality of this team is. Are you sensing that around the country as well?
Yeah, I think, if you talk to any level-headed Auburn fan or anybody who had been around this team, coming from last year, the ceiling for this team was if they got to 8 wins, that would be a great season. A lot of people predicted 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 would have been they would have had to steal a game or two here or there. But now that they're 8-1 with the chance to, still control their own destiny in the SEC West and vie for a conference championship and then after that, who knows? I think a lot of people's expectations are blown and I think a lot of people have really, are kind of surprised. And I think even some people associated with the program, if you would have said, hey, if you guys are going to go 8-1 and have a chance to play for an SEC championship, I think a lot of people would have told you to go home and take a nap. And so now, that it's a reality. It's an exciting time on the Plains, especially when they were 3-9 last year, and just the turmoil that whole program was in, and to where they are now, it's night and day.
It seems like they're doing it through obviously running the football really well. Evan and I looked up some stats yesterday. I mean, they lead the conference in attempts, in total yards per carry, rushing, tied for first in rushing TDs. How would you describe this run attack that Tennessee fans are going to see on Saturday?
Yeah, everybody looks at this offense and sees the shotgun and sees the spread formations and thinks, oh, it's a spread team, they're going to throw it. But, Gus Malzahn's offense is a run-based offense, and he said that, and he's made no qualms about it. He actually, he bristles a little bit at the fact when you call his offense spread. It's hurry up, no huddle, but it is based on power running. And if you watch the linemen and you watch some of the blocking schemes, it is a traditional run offense, just out of different formations, out of the shotgun. And, they want to run the football. They want to establish the run. I mean, they're running it more than anybody else, in the conference. They're obviously getting more yards than anybody else in the conference. And, we're going to beat you up and like Trey Mason said after the game Saturday when they beat Arkansas, we're going to shove it down your throat. And if you can't stop it, you're going to have to like it. And that's their mentality. And that's the mentality of a football team that's confident. And when you're running the football in this conference, you're having success with it, you're going to be pretty successful. And so that's what, they're basing their whole entire identity off of, is being physical at the point of attack and running the football until you can stop it. And not many people have this year.
We're visiting with Mike Szvetitz. He's a sports editor of the Opelika-Auburn News, oanow.com for more on the Auburn Tigers here on the News Sentinel sports page. Mike, you mentioned that line of scrimmage and how they want to run it down your throat. That's something that Tennessee in the last 2 weeks against high-level competition has struggled with, especially this past week against Missouri. Has the offensive line gotten enough attention for that mentality, that success with the ground game?
As much as an offensive line is going to get, they're the unsung heroes. But yeah, I think without these guys, obviously, they're not as good as they are. Trey Mason's a special back. He's a guy that really makes this team a lot better. But, you look at that offensive line across the board, everybody has played together. They all were starters last year at one point or another. 4 of them have started every game pretty much, for the last 2 years. and played young, and at the right tackle spot you had Avery Young, who started the first 3 games last year and then got hurt, and Patrick Miller came in and played the last 9. This year those two battled, for position, and Patrick Young started the first half and Avery Young started the last 4 games. And so you've got a consistency there, you've got a mentality, and you've got, just an offense that, when it's clicking and you're running the football, they feed off of it. And when you're dominating, if you're an offensive lineman and you're dominating the run game, it's just that much better. And so, the offensive line deserves a lot of the credit for the success they've had. But, it kind of goes all the way across the board, because as well, you've got a zone read offense with a quarterback who can hurt you with his legs too. So you can't just key on Trey Mason. You can't just key on Nick Marshall. You got to respect them both. And they have 2 other guys back there in Cameron Artis-Payne and Corey Grant who can hurt you in different ways. So, it's a potent running attack for sure.
What do you expect from the quarterback position on Saturday against Tennessee? Will it be all Marshall if he stays healthy? Will they mix in Jeremy Johnson? How do you think they approach and handle that quarterback situation?
Yeah, it's Nick Marshall's team, and he's going to get the majority of the snaps. Now, they do have a package for Jeremy Johnson. We've seen it a little bit this year where he comes in for, 2 or 3 plays and kind of gets things going, and he adds the different dimension. He's more the pure passer, and he's young, so he's kind of got that, can he run the whole offense? They're pretty comfortable that he can run most of it, but, he's not going to run, 60, 70 plays a game like Nick Marshall is. He's the guy that's going to come in, maybe a little change of pace, and I think you're going to see Marshall do what he does, and then when they feel like they've got a good situation or good time in the game where they want to bring in the Jeremy Johnson package, they'll bring that in and let him play for a couple snaps and then go back to Nick Marshall. But there's no mistake. This is Nick Marshall's team. He's the leader on their team, and without him playing quarterback, I don't think Auburn's 8-1 at all.
Let's hop over to the defense. We're visiting with Mike Szvetitz from the Opelika-Auburn News, getting a preview of the Auburn Tigers, Tennessee's opponent on Saturday. Talk about that defensive line specifically and some of the impact young guys that have come in there and made a difference.
Yeah, they're playing 10 to 12 guys on the defensive line, rotating in, and obviously D Ford is the leader on that team, the senior defensive end, who was hurt a little bit this year, got banged up a little bit against Arkansas on Saturday. But, he's a guy that kind of, just anchors, what you're getting with him. But then you've got these freshmen and transfer defensive linemen who, you got to start with Carl Lawson, who's, a 5-star defensive end who came in and has played in every game and played well. And you've got, the defensive tackles have stepped up in the last couple weeks. In the early part of the season, the defensive line wasn't getting any push up the middle, and then guys like Ben Bradley, a junior college transfer, Gabe Wright from Columbus, Georgia, who was supposed to be the new Nick Fairley. He's starting to play up to that potential a little bit this year. So you're starting to get a push up the middle from the defensive tackles, and the defensive ends are obviously playing well with Lawson and D Ford and some of those younger guys who have come in and really, haven't been wowed by the SEC. They're physically ready. It's just getting in the game experience. And now that they have that 9 games into the season, this is a veteran defensive line. Even though there's a lot of newcomers, they've played enough snaps to be veterans by now.
Mike, talk about, for people that haven't seen Auburn, the linebackers and the secondary. Give me your quick thoughts on them. And then style of play for people that haven't seen Auburn play this year. What's Auburn's style? What do they hang their hat on defensively?
Defensively, they're just a bend but don't break kind of defense. If you look at the yards they're giving up between the 20s, they're giving up huge chunk plays and lots of yards. But then once they get inside the red zone, once they get their back up against the goal line, a switch flips, and they're very stingy on the red zone. I think they lead the SEC in red zone defense. They've only allowed, 7 or 8 touchdowns and 27, 28 attempts inside the red zone. So they're very stingy when they get their back up against the wall. They're an opportunistic defense, which last year they were. They had 2 interceptions total last year. They had 3 interceptions in the first game this year. So they've gotten better. Ellis Johnson's defense, the 4-2-5 that he brought in with that star position, has really played in a lot of these guys' hands as far as being athletic enough to be moved around and play. You kind of got a lot of tweeners in Auburn. You got, are they a linebacker or are they a safety? They kind of can play either. And with Ellis Johnson's scheme, with that star position, it's that hybrid specifically for guys who are, not really a linebacker, but not really a safety. And they execute that very well. And so, it's a defense that kind of bends but doesn't break. And when they need to make a play, they seem to make a play at every single game this year.
We've had multiple conversations this morning about Auburn entering this game as a 7-point favorite. Some seem to think that's lowballing it. Others think that's about right. Some say it should be fewer. What do you see? I guess if you had to make a prediction in this game, what do you think is going to happen on Saturday?
Well, if I could pick the games, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be in Vegas somewhere.
Amen,
so
brother.
I'm terrible at picking games. As if you look at our picks on our paper, you can pick the test. But I think for Auburn, it's just to establish the run and do what they do. And they're a team that doesn't take their foot off the gas. And so if they get going, they're going to continue to to score. And for Auburn, I know going up in the early morning game, they want to get the momentum on the road. The road tested. They've won in some tough places in College Station and in Fayetteville, and didn't play well early against LSU, but came back in the second half and didn't give up and made it a respectable game. So I think they understand how to play on the road, and taking the crowd out of it is going to be a big thing. Trying to get that momentum since it is an early start. So I think if you're Auburn, you want to get up early and kind of just keep the pedal down. And honestly, and I know Gus Malzahn would never admit to this, but you kind of almost want to just get out of there without any bumps and bruises, with any serious injuries. You want to take care of business, if you win by a touchdown or you win by 3 touchdowns, and get back, because the last 2 games are, against Georgia and Alabama at home. And so you kind of just want to get this road trip over with and get back to the house. And I think, if you're Auburn, any win, whether it's a 7-point win or whether it's a 70-point win, which I don't think will happen, but, whatever it is, they're going to be satisfied as long as they get back to, to Auburn 9-1 after this week.
You mentioned their ability to play on the road, and that's something that Tennessee has struggled so much with. But it seems like, after that LSU loss, they've had 2 games now where they've gone away from the home stadium and played really well. There's no reason to expect them to be, loose or sloppy on the road, is there?
No, they've been there, done that. This is their final SEC road game. There's no more firsts for this team. They've already, they've gotten rid of all that, and I don't think there's any reason to expect them. If they didn't play tight last week with all the off the field stuff that was going on and all the hype and Malzahn returning to Arkansas and all those things, if they didn't play tight that game, then there's no reason to expect them to play tight this weekend.
Mike, last thing. Why has Gus Malzahn, why is he connected with this team and made such an impact in his first year, in your opinion?
Well, he's just he's a fiery guy, and it's hard to see sometimes when he deals with the media because he's so businesslike. But when he gets in the locker room and in the huddle and around those guys, there's something about him that just connects with the players. He's very passionate and fiery, and he wants to win. And he's confident in his team, and he tells them, hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and they believe him. And that's just something that's hard as a first-year coach for players to buy in. I think the difference is that he spent 3 years here as an offensive coordinator, with only a year away, and I think a lot of the guys he recruited understand, and so they're familiar with him because there was his offensive coordinator. So I think that familiarity, even though he is a first-year coach, he spent a lot of time at Auburn, and the players know him, and it's not new players that he's coaching. It's guys that he's recruited and been with, so I think that's helped a lot.
Let me squeeze in one more. Oftentimes in close ball games, special teams make a big difference. What have you seen, good or bad, from Auburn special teams?
Well, I think Auburn's, special teams are probably the best in the conference or close to the top in the conference. I mean, Cody Parkey is automatic pretty much inside 45 yards. He hasn't missed an extra point in, I don't think, 2 years. One of the top kickers, I think, in the conference. And then you've got Stephen Clark at punter, who was the, Ray Guy finalist 2 years ago, and just continues to make plays with in the punting game. Against Arkansas, he pinned him inside the 20-yard line 3 times and inside the 5 twice. He just hitting the 9-iron in there with some backspin, and it just seems to check up every time. And they've got some great special teams. The return game, Trey Mason returning, kickoffs. I think Auburn in 6 or 7 years in a row, I believe they had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So these guys have been, their special teams is something they take pride in, and there's no drop off, in that third phase of the game for Auburn.
And who else has a 6'5", 230-pound kicker, a punter?
It's very true, yeah. So he can come up and hit you, too, if he has to.
All right, Mike, tell everyone where they can find your coverage of Auburn this week if they want to learn more about Tennessee's opponent on Saturday.
Yeah, go to oanow.com and, click on all the sports stuff there. Alex Byington is our Auburn University beat writer. You can follow him on Twitter at AUblog. And we got all the fixes for you, and we're looking forward to coming up there on Saturday and covering the game and seeing some friends. And I know, Ben, I'll be looking forward to meeting you, and Vince, I'm sure I'll see you around there too, buddy. Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. And you can follow Mike on Twitter as well. It's at Szvetitz, SZVETITZ, for Mike Szvetitz, sports editor of the Opelika-Auburn News.